Something massive just dropped about the Cowboys and Max Crosby, and honestly, it changes everything. We thought we knew about this offseason, but before we break this down, hit that subscribe button right now, because here at Blue and Silver Nation, we are all over every single Cowboys update the second it happens. And trust me, you do not want to miss what is coming next. So look, here is the deal. Multiple teams have reportedly been blowing up the Raiders' phone lines, trying to pry Max Crosby away from Las Vegas. And yes, Dallas is very much in that conversation. But here is where it gets complicated, and here is what nobody is really talking about. The Cowboys are not the only ones dancing at this party, and some of these other teams have way more money to throw around, which puts Dallas in a very tricky position. Now, let me be crystal clear about what we actually know versus what is still speculation, because I am not going to sit here and pretend I have sources inside the building. That is not how we do things over here. What we do know from league insiders and recent reports is that Max Crosby appears to be healthy. His value is through the roof, and the Raiders are genuinely entertaining offers. And this is a massive, but we still do not know if Las Vegas is truly willing to pull the trigger on moving one of the faces of their entire franchise. This is Mark Davis's guy, one of his absolute favorites. So the decision they are facing is monumental. Do they go full rebuild mode and collect what would likely be a first-round pick, plus additional assets? Or do they keep their best player and try to build around him? That is not a decision you make overnight. And honestly, I respect them for taking their time. But here is the crazy part. While the Raiders are sitting there contemplating their future, Dallas is stuck in limbo. And that is dangerous because other teams are circling like sharks smelling blood in the water. Let me throw some numbers at you that should make every Cowboys fan nervous. The Chargers are sitting on roughly $99 million in cap space to spend this offseason. The Titans have around $92 million. The Raiders themselves are loaded with about $86 million. The Jets have $73 million. The Commanders have $69 million. And even the Seahawks are working with $58 million. Now, where do the Cowboys fall in this equation? Nowhere near the top, my friends. Nowhere near. And that is the problem. When you are trying to land elite talent, whether through trade or free agency, money talks, and right now Dallas is not speaking the loudest language. So, what does that mean for the Max Crosby dream? Well, here is my honest take, and some of you might not want to hear this, but I think the Cowboys need to mentally prepare to move on from this pursuit. Because if another team comes in with 2 first-round picks or a first-round pick, plus a quality player, the Raiders are not going to think twice about taking that deal over whatever Dallas can realistically offer. And if the news about Crosby's availability had leaked right before the draft, that would have been perfect timing for the Cowboys. Because on draft day, you can hold teams' feet to the fire, you can get maximum value, because everyone is desperate and the clock is ticking. But the news dropped now, which means teams have time to posture and outbid each other. And Dallas simply does not have the ammunition to win that war. Does that mean we give up on getting an elite pass rusher? Absolutely not. And this is where the conversation gets really interesting, because there are other names out there who could transform this defense without requiring you to mortgage the future. Let us talk about Trey Hendrickson for a minute. This man is a legitimate game wrecker who just hit free agency after the Bengals essentially let him walk. And here is the pitch I would make if I was in that front office. Hey Trey, you want to cement your legacy, you want to finish your career on the biggest stage in football. There is nothing bigger than that star on the side of the helmet. You come to Dallas, you join a top 5 offense, and you help us build a top 5 defense under a new defensive coordinator who is going to let you eat. You want to be remembered. You want to make plays that matter. This is where you do it. And yeah, maybe Dallas cannot offer the absolute highest dollar amount, but they can offer something. Money cannot always buy. They can offer the spotlight, the prestige, and the chance to chase a championship with a franchise that has the infrastructure to support it. Now, if Hendrickson does not work out, For whatever reason, there are other options. Bradley Chubb is out there. Jalen Phillips had 5 sacks last season, and he is only 26 years old, which means he fits the timeline of what Dallas is trying to build. These are not Max Crosby-level talents. I am not going to lie to you and pretend they are, but they are quality players who can contribute immediately without forcing you to give up the draft capital you desperately need. And speaking of things you desperately need, let us talk about what should be the absolute priority before chasing anyone else. George Pickens, this young man has to be locked up, period, end of discussion. And I have seen some people floating trade scenarios out there where Dallas flips Pickens for draft picks. And I am going to be honest, that makes me want to pull my hair out. Why would you trade away a dynamic receiver in his prime when you have a quarterback who needs weapons? Why would you subtract from an offense that is supposed to carry this team while the defense develops? That makes zero sense to me. Now, I understand the cap situation is complicated, and yes, there is a report suggesting that moving Pickens could free up significant money and potentially net you a first-round pick similar to what the Titans got for A.J. Brown. But here is my counter-argument. You cannot keep taking away from Dak Prescott and then expect him to perform at an elite level. You cannot strip the roster of playmakers and then wonder why the offense stalls. In big moments, George Pickens is a difference maker, and difference makers are hard to find. So, before we go chasing Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson or anyone else, we need to make sure we are securing the assets we already have. Put your own mask on first, before helping others. That is the rule, and right now, the Cowboys' mask is making sure Pickens is a Cowboy for the long haul. Now let us pivot to the draft because this is where things get really spicy. The Cowboys are currently slotted to pick at 12, and depending on how the board falls, there could be some incredible options available. One name that keeps popping up in mock drafts is Jameer McCoy, and look, I know some of you are going to have concerns because of the ACL situation, but hear me out. This kid is arguably the best defensive back in the entire class. When healthy, the talent is undeniable. The question is whether Dallas wants to take that risk. And honestly, with the way this roster is constructed, they might have to take some calculated gambles to get back to contender status. Another name that showed up recently on mock boards is Dylan Crawford. And I need to do more research on his tape before I give you a definitive opinion. But the buzz is real, and if he falls to the Cowboys' range, that could be a steal. The point is this: the draft is going to be crucial this year, maybe more crucial than any draft in recent memory, because Dallas cannot outspend the competition in free agency. They have to outthink them. They have to find value where others miss it. They have to hit on these picks and develop players quickly. And that brings me to the defensive coordinator situation, because whoever is calling plays next season needs to maximize the talent they have, not the talent they wish they had. If Dallas can bring in a veteran presence like Hendrickson or Chubb to mentor the younger guys while also hitting on a couple draft picks, this defense could look completely different by week 1. But it all has to come together. The moves have to be calculated, and the front office cannot get distracted by shiny objects like Max Crosby when there are more realistic paths to improvement right in front of them. So let me ask you this, Cowboys Nation, if you are in that front office, what is your move? Do you keep pushing for Crosby, knowing you are probably going to get outbid? Do you pivot to free agency targets like Hendrickson? Do you go all in on the draft and trust your scouting department to find diamonds in the rough? Or do you try to do a little bit of everything and spread your resources thin? I personally think the answer is clear. Prioritize keeping George Pickens, make a strong but reasonable push for a veteran pass rusher like Trey Hendrickson, and then use the draft to address secondary needs and depth. You cannot do everything, but you can do the right things. And right now, the right thing is being smart, not desperate. The Cowboys have been desperate before, and it has burned them over and over again. This offseason needs to be different. This offseason needs to be about building something sustainable, not chasing headlines. And look, I want Max Crosby as much as anyone. I watch his tape and I see a guy who would completely transform this defensive line. but wanting something and being able to realistically get it are two different things. And I would rather see Dallas land 3 good players than swing for 1 great player and miss entirely, leaving us with nothing. March 9th is coming fast. Free agency is going to be chaotic, and the Cowboys need to position themselves correctly. They cannot win bidding wars, so they have to win the influence game. They have to sell players on the vision, the culture, the opportunity to be a star in Dallas, because that still means something to a lot of guys. And if the front office plays this right, if they secure Pickens, if they add a quality pass rusher, if they nail the draft, this team could be scary good next season. But if they fumble this, if they chase the wrong targets, if they let other teams outwork them, then we are going to be sitting here next year having the same conversations about what went wrong. And I do not want that. I know you do not want that either. So let us hold this front office accountable. Let us pay attention to every move, and let us support this team while also demanding excellence, because that is what Cowboys fans do. We expect greatness, and we should. Cowboys Nation. I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Who is your top free agent target? Who do you want with that first-round pick? And do you think the Max Crosby dream is officially dead? Or is there still hope? Be sure to subscribe if you have not already, because we are going to be covering every single move this offseason, and you need to be here for all of it. Stand tall or not at all. That has been my time. Thank you for yours, and as always, go Cowboys, let us get it.